So we'll go ahead and get this going. And then I'm going to share my screen with you so we can go through our PowerPoints. And of course, welcome everybody to our Lunch and Learn today. If you have not been with us before, we're just going to kind of give you a quick overview of what this looks like, and then we'll jump right into that agenda. If at any time you have questions or comments, please feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself so that we can get those answered. This is definitely intended to be a place of collaboration and a place for you to learn and grow together as an organization so we can work together on correcting some of the concerns that we have with our local workforce. So today's agenda, of course, I'm just going to welcome you guys, give you a little background about how this started, what our goals are with our Lunch and Learns. Drew Camp will then give you an update on some of the chamber programs that we have. I will jump back in with some unbelievable workplaces, new programming and engineering. And I'll be honest, I probably am going to flip that and let Dan go first so that he can kind of give you guys some updates. And then if he needs to jump off, he'll be able to jump off, and then I can give you some updates on the workforce side of stuff. And then we do have Starlyn with us today from Iowa Western Community College. It's going to go over the 260 E and F grants and some other opportunities that they have available out of Iowa Western Community College. And then we will kind of close up with any questions or comments that you guys have, any programming that you guys would like to see in the future. So with that, let's go ahead, and if you see me looking around, it's because I'm moving things off my screen so I can see. So kind of an updated background about where this started. This started about a year and a half ago. A group of HR managers got together, kind of started discussing what's going on with the workforce in Potawatomi County, what are some of our concerns, and what are some goals that we want for the future, and then potentially like what are some of the activities or programs that we could put into place in cooperation with the chamber to try to address those. So some of the areas of concern that we have is we want to reduce the turnover at our businesses. And of course, that is as a community of a whole, although the chamber is a member-for-member organization. So we do really heavily focus on working one-on-one with any of our members. So if you are not a member and you would like some more one-on-one or to know some of those benefits, please feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out to Kim Boothie there. We want to increase the number of participating participants in the labor pool. So right now it's about 66% last time this survey was done of able-bodied residents of Potawatomi County that are in the workforce. And so we do want to increase that. We want to increase brain gain. So what that means is we want to increase that education or secondary education that those in our workforce have in one area or another. For anybody familiar with the school systems, they do have a D+1 goal, which is for all students graduating with their degree to also have a secondary like certification or opportunity available to them. So that is one way that they are helping assist that. We have some other programs that we'll discuss later on that we are working on. And then one that we are really excited about, and Starlyn is going to help with that in the future, and so is Iowa Community College, but that is working on getting some more fully funded apprenticeship programs, getting some of those registered apprenticeship programs. If you guys are not familiar with those, we will chat briefly about them, but those are your earn to learn opportunities. You can find those online at Future Ready Iowa. And we are releasing a sign-up form on the chamber website where if you do have an apprenticeship program, please fill out that form. Let us know about that so that we can help share that with residents and job seekers. So some of the areas that we wanted to work on immediately to start addressing those concerns is our Lunch and Learns. We do have our Lunch and Learns up and running now. They are monthly on the third Thursday of the month from 11 to 12:30. Currently, of course, due to the pandemic, we are via Zoom. We are hoping that we'll eventually get into a live setting. So with those, there is some sponsorship opportunities available for you to look at. So you could be a host for the month, and then you get 25 to 30 minutes to present. We also have a series sponsor available. And so there's a lot of promotion that goes into being a series sponsor. And then of course, once we are live and in person again, we will host those at your facility. So it gives you an opportunity to showcase your facility to 20 to 30 individuals in our business community. The other thing that we are working on, and we are 98% of the way there, is our work-ready communities. We have decided that Potawatomi County does want to become a certified work-ready community. We have almost all of the NCRCs available that we need. Now what we really are looking for is our business partners to register themselves and say that they are either a recognized or a recommended business of the NCRC. And we'll dive into that a little bit here soon. Another program that we wanted to look at was a best places to work in Council Bluffs, and that program is live, and I encourage you to jump on and check it out for your business. And that is at Unbelievable Workplaces CB. So that program, you will sign up. It is a very small fee. We did that on purpose this year so we can keep it very reasonable and affordable for all of our business partners. It is $25 for any chamber member and only $50 if you're not a member. And we'll kind of go into some more details on that program here soon, as well as I encourage you to check out that website. And lastly, we want to work in with GROW or some work lab partners in the community, try to get those navigators on site, help our workers while they're at work so that they can focus on their job at hand and not lose it because of their home life. This again is just kind of what we're working on in a different charts. And again, in light of our time, I will turn that over to Drew.
Yeah, and I'll try to be brief because some of the things I wanted to talk about are policy based, and Dan will certainly be doing that. But a few things I wanted to touch on just workforce based, as Alicia hit on a lot of them, and I don't want to step on her toes too much for what she's going to talk about later. But we're real excited about Unbelievable Workplaces CB and rolling that out, plus some of the partnerships we're doing at the Business Ethics Alliance. For leadership training. I'll let her expand on those later, but those are some good opportunities for our employers and good opportunities just in general for our workforce portfolio. So I'm really appreciative of the work she's doing there. We also continue to have conversations with the city and the county on how we can best work with them to provide value and demonstrate value to them, and hopefully get some funding in regard to that as well. So that's something that's been a really nice thing, a really nice piece of the workforce program that we've been able to do, as well as we continue to see investment into this critical need for our members and our community. Real quick, just on some of the policy pieces, because the legislative session did start, I just want to hit on some of the key issues as far as things we're monitoring. I won't go down into the details. Tax reform is a really big one. I'm sure Senator Dawson will talk about that. All that will go through his committee in the Senate. We're also going to be looking at broadband, child care, workforce housing, brownfield, grayfield tax credits. TIF is always something, tax increment financing, something we look at. Mental health is something we'll look at. Some of the proposals that were put forward for schools. We're working with our partners at Council Bluffs Community School District and Lewis Central School District on how we can best move forward and monitor those to positively impact the community. Also, workforce learning opportunities, obviously very applicable to this group. The governor does want to add an additional $10 million to increase the last dollar scholarship to $23 million total. That was part of her proposal. That's something we're really excited about. Placemaking is another really big thing. I'm excited. We'll have a conversation with Debbie Durham, the director of Iowa Economic Development Authority, tomorrow at the Iowa Chamber Alliance meeting. So I'm really excited to pick her brain on some things she has in the hopper for that. And then also just the Governor's Economic Recovery Advisory Board and the Empower Rural Iowa initiative and their recommendations that they have bringing to the legislature. So those are some of the big things that we're kind of looking at going into the session. And we look forward to working with Dan and his colleagues on as we move into the session even more. A few other things that I wanted to touch on just real quick is Unite CB continues to be in full swing, that awareness campaign to stop the spread and keep businesses open. You should see some new posts on our social media in our collaboration with Right Idea Media. We're also going to have a banner going up on Right Ideas building and a billboard that Roger Sandow owns on West Broadway that we're partnering with him and Potawatomi County Public Health on to get the awareness campaign out. And we thank Potawatomi County Public Health, the city, and Iowa West Foundation for helping fund the Unite CB campaign. And then we'll also continue to work with our partners to make sure all the information possible is getting out regarding any resources, webinars, things like that, that are out there to help people and guide them through just COVID assistance in general and some of PPP and EIDL loans, things like that. We'll just continue to work with our partners to share information. And I'll stop there and turn it back over to Alicia so we can get Dan on for who we're here to truly see.
Great, thanks so much. As I said, I'm just going to kind of skip around on our itinerary a little bit. At this time, I do want to turn it over to Dan. I appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today. We want to make sure that you have time to touch on everything that you wanted to speak on before you have to jump off. So Dan, thanks again.
Well, thanks, and thanks for having me here. Drew almost hit every darn bullet point I had written down here going into this, but hopefully I'll provide a little more background context of where we're at on some of this. For those of you who don't know, I represent Senate District 8, which is all of Carter Lake and about 2/3 of Council Bluffs. Started my second term up here. The committees that I am on is State Government, Judiciary, Veterans Affairs, and I am the chair of Ways and Means. And for those who don't know, Ways and Means is the committee that oversees all tax policy in the state, as well, that could be anything from income taxes, sales tax, property taxes, and then we also look at all the fees that are assessed in the state as well too. So it's a pretty neat committee. I mean, I've been on Ways and Means my entire time up there. This is the first time I've had the opportunity to chair it. And I've kind of described it like this, Senator, or now Congressman Feenstra was initially the Ways and Means chair a few years ago. I was his vice chair for that. And then with Senator Chapman, I was his vice chair. And it's almost one of those things where, your parents teaching you how to drive the car. And at some point in time, the parent pulls over, says, get out, you're getting behind the driver's seat now. So you got that, oh crap moment there for a minute where it's like, gosh, dang, I should be responsible for this committee and, determine a pathway forward there. But doing it in the last 4 years, but definitely a different feeling, that's for sure, trying to get my arms wrapped around our caucus priorities as well as governor's priorities and figure out how we can chart a pathway forward. So huge honor and really neat committee assignment here that I have. So I'm going to kind of break out my presentation a little bit. I'll first maybe just talk about some general observations around here in the first 2 weeks, maybe go through some of the workforce development things as well as some things that I'm currently working on right now. I preface all this by saying up front that this is week 2 and it's really early in the process. You can see some ideas start to step forward here, but the coalescing around certain things hasn't occurred just yet. And the reason why I say that is COVID has definitely impacted things up here. The way we're operating the Senate right now is that we are doing virtual subcommittees. This allows the opportunity for people who might have health problems or, certain conditions out there where they can't physically appear in public, a way to virtually come online and participate in the subcommittee process, which is something brand new we've never done before. And it's actually worked fairly well. We have a couple technical glitches over here. We had to do the Control-Alt-Delete or restart a computer to get it back up and running again, but it's been relatively smooth process thus far. But the drawback to that is we have a lot of members, particularly we have a lot of new members in the Senate that if there's no need to be up there, a lot of us, we can remote from home unless you're a committee chair and you got to be up here for some meetings. So we're losing a lot of that interpersonal communication that develops, in the course of between subcommittees and committees. We're just talking to people on the side, getting to know persons. And, you can see it like when a lot of our kids were virtual or hybrid earlier on this year, the pandemic first started and going on to the year where, elected officials are no different from kids, right? In some ways where you need that interpersonal communication, develop, relationships. And, when they're not in school, they're not developing that. It's the same thing up here as well. So getting to know individuals and where their priorities are at and feelings on things seems to be slowing things down a little bit. I think we're getting the business of the people done, but it's under a different umbrella, and it's definitely odd up here this year. But hopefully, as the vaccine continues to roll out and we resume to more of a normal or a previous mode of operations, this thing will all come together, and I'm confident it will in the end here. So that's kind of my general observations up here. We started having subcommittees this week. Like I said, I've been pretty impressed with the virtual technology. I've seen people from Council Bluffs actually tune into a couple subcommittees and everything, which frankly, I haven't seen that happen before. But we really haven't hit into some of the bigger bills yet. So I'm not sure if we get a huge volume of individuals from across the state jumping on how that technology is going to hold up. But for what I would consider maybe some lesser controversial bills, which have been most of the body that we've run here thus far, seemed to work out pretty flawlessly. So where we're looking at, I'll talk from I start with the governor's priorities here real quick. The governor had her State of the State speech last week where she lays out the condition of the state of Iowa, as well as her policy priorities going forward into this next session. my experience up here the previous years is that, any governor, whether it be Governor Reynolds or Governor Branstad, and people before will say that with Governor Vilsack and Culver, no governor gets everything they want, but they certainly set markers out that, we try to find some pathway to, either come together on some issues or maybe just have disagreements on some other issues. So some of the issues that the governor set forward here in her condition of the state from a workforce development and tax policy side is that probably the biggest thing is she wants to eliminate the triggers on our 2018 tax reform bill. And what that means is, from a briefing on what we did on that 5-year tax bill back in 2018, is the final leg of that bill is a overall income tax reduction for most Iowans. Initially, it was a 5% across the board, but Iowa currently, even right now, after that 5% cut, is at an 8.49% personal income tax rate for any small business or family that makes over $77,000 a year. If you compare that to our surrounding states, you go over to Nebraska, it's around 6.8. Kansas is around 5. South Dakota has no personal income tax rates. Missouri is around 5 or 6 as well. Illinois, I think the only one is, I think we're tied with Minnesota. So when we talk about workforce, we talk about businesses and opportunities for families. When we have the highest tax rate in the area for our surrounding states, it puts us at a competitive disadvantage. Inside of that bill, on the final leg, which would happen in 2023, it was going to be an overall tax reduction on that top rate, all rates, but that's really the one from a business standpoint we can talk about here. It would take it down to 6.5%, which would be the first time in about 40 years that we would have an income tax rate lower than Nebraska, our friends across the river, which would be a huge boon. A lot of times when businesses look to plant here in Iowa, I heard it simply put by Barry Cleveland, Council Bluffs once, if I can't understand my tax liability in the first 30 seconds of a conversation, you lose me. And that's really the problem we have here in Iowa, is that we've had to create a bunch of credits and deductions and not really work on that top rate. So with that income tax reduction, we had 2 triggers. The state revenue had to hit $8.3 billion. We have to have a 4% growth rate. Those triggers I was never in favor of to begin with, because it doesn't really provide clarity and doesn't provide certainty for our businesses. We're probably just about on target to hit that revenue rate. But if we hit this next budget year and we have a 3.9% growth rate, then we don't hit the trigger and we don't get that top, that final reduction in all of our income tax rates. Or we hit 4.1%. It's just, I don't think there was probably a reason to why 4% was settled on, but in the end, when businesses and small businesses, that's most people pay the personal income tax, the small businesses, we're not providing certainty or anything. So one of our top priorities, and it was the governor's priorities, to get rid of those triggers and just tell all businesses and all families this, you can plan on this being your tax rate starting into the tax year January 1, 2023. Some other things the governor talked about as well, broadband, when talking about workforce and how do we attract families to Iowa here. She laid down a huge marker where she wants to invest about $450 million over the next 3 years, about $150 a year, into building out broadband here in the state of Iowa. Something we definitely saw within the pandemic is that we have a lot of areas that we're trying to sync up to their businesses or their schools, and we just have zones out there that have very little broadband access. That is going to be a topic of conversation going forward here. One of the things that just came down from the federal government here about a month and a half, 2 months ago, is that they awarded Iowa $143 million in broadband for this year to expand it. So putting our budget hat on for a minute, if the governor's priority is $150 million plus another $143 from the feds in the first year alone, I don't know if we can spend $300 million in 1 year on broadband. You talk about one right now trying to build a house, trying to find someone to replace a deck or do some home project. A lot of these, on the construction side, they're backed up 6-9 months as it is right now. And I don't know if the infrastructure workforce out there for that type of, putting down fiber is readily available for shovel-ready projects to get that going right away. So we're gonna have a conversation about what an appropriate amount is going to be. I full well expect that we are going to have some type of large broadband expansion program. I'm not sure 450 million is where we're going to land on that, but it is important. I was commenting the other day, there's just younger families now that when they're looking at going to rural Iowa, I had a personal experience there with a family rental property that it was a set of younger kids, and they wanted to know what the internet was like because they want to be able to play video games at home at night. Something that certainly wasn't, I'm a little bit older, and that wasn't something I was looking forward to when I was wanting to build out a house. But if we're trying to, attract a workforce into some of these areas, that is something there that we definitely, the younger crowd wants these days. And so we need to find some way to provide infrastructure for that. Another thing as well, too, that the governor laid a marker on is expanding the threshold for the child care tax credit. Right now, I'm just going through some numbers here. We have basically defined, the child care cliff effect, that there's a refundable credit out there, but it cuts off at $40,000. With my chart here real quick. That's something that she wants to move it up to $90,000 for families to have access to that to help out with childcare costs. There's a bunch of other bills running around here too, is to actually just creating an additional credit as opposed to, moving on a scale or whatnot. I certainly see that getting a lot of attention this year. When we talk about families trying to participate in the workforce, one of the big concerns is that, well, I can't enter the workforce if I have to pay more in childcare than it will the job I can find. So I think it's something that we've cleared the initial storm of COVID from a financial aspect, that we can have a little more budget certainty and start to dig down on that there and try to provide some families some assistance there, or try to, balance that out a little bit. Another thing the governor wants to do as well, she laid down increases in a variety of housing credits. She wants to expand one credit as well as create a new affordable housing credit. This wouldn't be necessarily low-income housing, but more talking to Debbie Durham with economic development, it'd be more, starting families housing, in your medium range wise. That is going to probably cause a lot of conversation as well. I think there's probably some support for that, but it's going to get caught up in the larger discussion we have on credits in general. I think something we're trying to focus on here in the last few years, going back to the personal income tax rate for a minute, is that the reason why we have so many credits in Iowa is because we never really tried to focus on driving down some of these top rates, whether it be the corporate rate, whether it be the personal income tax rate, things along those lines. And if we just keep on creating credits and don't go to the root cause of the problem here, we're never really going to dig ourselves out and have a transformational reform to our system. So I imagine we'll probably make some headway on that. It's just we're going to have a larger conversation on our full spectrum of credits here. The governor probably hit on some additional other items as well too, but again, just for the topic conversation for this body, I think those are the things that the markers that were laid out last week, and the governor started to release some of her bills. I think an education bill came out a couple of days ago. I believe the broadband bill is coming out today. We'll see some other ones as well when they start to roll out their policy. We, as a body, might run with some of those bills, or we might take some of the best parts out, some parts that we might have consensus on, and refile our own bills to kind of work off that a little bit. So everything the governor's rolled out thus far, I don't see as being things we aren't doable. Maybe we don't get there all the way on some of those items, but I think it's definitely a lot of the consensus agenda there that we can try to make headway on. So from my personal foxhole and ways and means, some of those items will come across my desk, but where I'm really trying to focus our effort on this year is on mental health funding, as well as our mental health property tax levies. This has been an item that's been up here for multiple years that we can't quite seem to break out of. Most or all of Iowa is broken down to mental health regions, and those regions assess a property tax levy to fund the region's healthcare systems. One of the problems we have as elected officials with our mental health system is that when you tie mental health to property taxes, a lot of political discussion occurs when you want to raise someone's property taxes, which is one of the reasons why we haven't been able to fund mental health maybe to its full capacity. What I say about that is, right now, these regions are assessing per county net throughout Iowa about $80 million in property taxes across the state to fund the mental health regions. The capacity out there is $116 million. So if you think about it, we have probably about a $36 million gap there where the capacity is to fund the mental health system is what's actually being funded at right now. So every year, the legislature receives pressure to fund mental health. The legislature's response has always been kind of, well, the regions have had the capacity in the past to, raise their levy to fund their mental health systems. And it becomes kind of, a loggerhead where it is a standstill. Last year, the governor released her proposal for Invest in Iowa, which it was an overall a large tax reform bill that hit multiple facets. But one of the things that she tried to do in there is take the mental health levy off property taxes and move it to a sales tax. So what I'm doing in ways, and let me back up here on that Invest in Iowa bill. In the last few weeks, she decided, she made the policy decision that she wanted to basically put that bill on hold until next legislative session coming into January 2022. We have a little more certainty on the economic outlook within the state because there are some large sales tax and income tax reforms in there. And she felt that probably wouldn't be the best time to do something large scale on that until we get better revenue picture as to what more stable funds look like. But it doesn't mean that we can't take a look at some aspects of that bill as where I'm approaching the work from my committee. Maybe if there were problems with the bill, one of the things is that, it was a large bill. And so if maybe we can break down some components, the way I view things of that, and start to work on stuff this year, then we can get to some of that other stuff next year and maybe build some more consensus around it as opposed to being a heavy lift. So where I would like to approach it from the Senate standpoint, kind of going back to broadband there, maybe we don't need $150 million towards broadband since we have 143 from the feds already this year. Maybe we can take part of that and just wipe out the entire mental health levy, have the state assume the financial responsibility for the system and build up on the mental health system within the state, providing everyone property tax relief and find a better way to fund our mental health system. So I think the body of the work of Ways and Means Committee this year is going to be what I would consider a mental health property tax reform bill. Take that component out and use that as the centerpiece of what we try to deliver. And then maybe next year come back and focus on some of the sales tax and income tax components that she was looking on or whatnot. So I think it'll be, in the end, we're never going to break out this mental health quagmire until we take the mental health funding off property taxes, because right now we have 16 regions throughout the state. It's a weird map. There's a lot of local politics that gets involved. And then in the end, a lot of families are like, why aren't we having more improvements to our mental health system? Well, the reality is it's on property taxes. And when you just think, us up here at the Capitol, we have 50 senators, 100 legislators. A lot of times it's hard to reach consensus on items. When you times 99 counties out there, board of supervisors, you assume everyone has 5, you just realize how many political opinions you have on mental health funding and their county levies or whatnot. So that's going to be a large body of the work of what we're going to do this year. Obviously, it's only week 2, so I'm starting to try to craft a plan right now and hopefully sit down with the House and build some consensus on that. But at the end of the day, I would like to walk out and work on some of these items, but give Iowans $80 million in property tax relief and give them a better mental health system that provides more funding, funding for growth in the future as opposed to this quagmire win right now. So, and the reason why I mentioned that is because, it all comes, the items I continually hear about there from a workforce, we talk to businesses, it's housing, it's broadband, it's mental health. Those are top 3 things that seem to always come up in these meetings or whatnot. So every committee has, our Leader Whitver stated time again that, we don't need an economic development committee because every committee should be focusing on economic development, whether it's local government, ways and means, education, so on and so forth. And that is going to be the Ways and Means Committee entry into our economic development this year, is to try to find a relief some property tax growth or provide property tax relief and help the system out. So that is kind of like a snapshot of, where I'm at right now, is where, like some policy markers have been set out there. I figured I'd save a little time and try to answer any questions or anything like that, or give any other wants or needs, Alicia?
No, thanks so much, Dan. I would like to say, Carol, first, thank you for participating today. And then she did ask, what about considering mental health as a health, as just health?
Well,
I guess a very loaded question. So
yeah, I would have to ask her more what she would mean by just health, but if I'm tracking what she's saying,
Carol, go ahead.
The answer would be yeah. I mean, you can talk to a lot of mental health directors, right? And for those individuals who don't know, my prior background is working in law enforcement, right? When we talk about mental health, there's a lot of things that are getting thrown under that umbrella, and there's a lot of subcomponents. Drug usage and addiction is a huge component. You talk to most of our regional directors there, and they will tell you, when it comes to like a mental health condition or those that are being exacerbated by drug addiction, over half the cases they're dealing with isn't, a per se mental health condition. It's drug addiction that's coming through there. You see it in the courts, a variety of that. Yeah, and there's, I guess I'd have to ask her more what she would mean by that, but I don't think I necessarily agree with her on that, because there's larger conversations about our health. So, go ahead.
I can answer that, Dan.
Sorry, Carol, I think you're wrong. So
we don't separate out cancer health. We don't separate out child health. We don't separate out other health conditions. Why do we separate out mental health conditions? What's the difference? There is no difference. We're talking about the effectiveness of a human being to be able to participate in society, whether or not they've got a freaking broken leg or they're suffering from chronic depression. Either way, they're not participating in society at their fullest capability. To me, health is health. Mental health does not need to be separated out. And my worry is that you're going to take the money away, and then you have no other plan in place. There's going to be zero, and we're going to get worse, not better. Our jails do not need to be filled with people that have addiction. Our hospitals do.
Yeah, so I guess on the money component there, one of my big things we're trying to focus on is not taking the money away. I want this money to get down to the regions there. I'm trying to find a different way to fund this system. And I guess it's not even more context what you're talking about. The regional concept of the mental health regions, that started long before I got here. We just seem to be running into a quagmire right now on overall funding. I want these regions to have the autonomy and not be a state-controlled entity or something along those lines there. When it comes to the overall body, I absolutely agree with you. Something, my other hat, I served 22 years in the reserves, and the big component we talk about with the military is, physical resiliency and mental resiliency, right? And that does include, it's not, strictly medication. That's getting out, engaging in your community. That's getting out and doing healthy lifestyles and activities. All those things that, help, broaden who you are. I'm not sure broaden's the best word, but if you don't do some of these other components here, there's no amount of mental health funding that's going to fix some of these issues or whatnot. So I 100% agree with you on that, because that's something. Now, I don't know, that's something that probably our healthcare system needs to take more of a lead. I don't know from a legislative standpoint, that's something that you can raise that policy marker on, but I think there has to be a broader conversation that all problems don't get fixed, even if we can increase mental health funding, because there's a lot of broader problems out there, and it's all interrelated, like you said. Some of these, I think maybe talking about mental health is maybe one symptom of some overall conditions, so.
Thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate you taking the questions and the time to kind of go through some of the priorities for the governor and yourself today. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for Dan before we turn it over to Iowa Western Community College? Well, thanks so much, Dan. If you're free to stay on with us, please do. Otherwise, if you have to jump off, we completely understand. I thank you for jumping on with us today.
No, actually, I got a few more minutes here, so I'm going to stay on for a little bit. But I got to run a meeting here, but I'll be interested to listen to Mark here. So thanks for everyone for jumping on here. Thanks, Alicia.
Thanks, Senator.
Thank you. And I actually am going to go ahead and push my portion of with some workforce updates to the end of this, just because I know there are a few people that have to jump off. And I want to make sure that everybody that's on gets the chance to hear Starlyn, hear about the programs that are available for your businesses through Iowa Western Community College and through the state. So I will go ahead and turn that over to Starlyn. And I know that she actually has some slides that she wants to show. She is going to turn this into a PowerPoint real quick, and she has that capability now. So Starlyn, thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. And hopefully Dan doesn't jump off because it's not Mark talking. So I won't take it personal. Actually, I will, but you know. And Mark, feel free to jump in anytime you wanted to interject or add anything here. So thank you very much for the opportunity to address you guys today. I put together just this brief slideshow. I was looking through the list of people that we have on the call today, and it kind of runs the gamut over all the different types of industries and types of businesses and stuff. So even though we're kind of a small group with just 25 or so of us, it's really great to see representation across all boards. So presentation today may be applicable directly to you and the businesses that you work with. And it might be something that as you're walking around out in the community and you're talking to businesses and talking to fellow team members or any of your colleagues or networking, they may say something that triggers the thought of, oh yes, I remember Iowa Western has this program, or they have a resource available to you. And part of the reason we wanted to put this presentation together today is to just give you that contact information as well, kind of plant that seed that you can put it, again, if it doesn't apply directly to you, put it in the back of your mind and think that might be something that somebody I come across someday might need, and provide the contact information to them. So the Iowa Western Community College Department of Economic Development, I think it'd be great to understand what it is we do. I do have oftentimes when you're out in the community and you are wearing an Iowa Western logo, they ask, you know, thinking it like Hy-Vee, they say, oh, what do you teach? I'm a student there. And I say, well, I don't actually work with the credit students. We do something different, but it does tie in really well with the greater goal of Iowa Western. So our departmental mission statement is, we work with individuals, communities, and existing and emerging businesses in Southwest Iowa, providing the services and programs they need to remain competitive and thrive. I think that states our mission really well, because it isn't just businesses. It isn't just Council Bluffs, which nothing against that. Council Bluffs is great, but we do have a large region, 7 counties that we cover. We are able to go into Omaha metro area as well if our services are needed, or if we need to partner across the river. But we definitely do look at taking care of our own area first before we venture out into there. So if you just look at the corner of Iowa, those 7 counties are pretty much all of it that we cover, and get out there meeting with them all the time and covering our whole area. The first program I wanted to talk to you today about is the 260E program. And that program is something I'm going to put a plug in there. Thank you, Senator Dawson, for supporting this program, both of these programs, actually. The 260E program is really vital to businesses in our community that are looking at either locating to here into the state of Iowa, or they're looking at expanding their workforce. I just had a Zoom this morning with a company that's in our region that's looking at expanding their workforce again and utilizing the 260E program. So it continues to be valuable, whether they're adding 10 positions or 100 or 300 positions. It's something that's definitely valuable to all of our businesses that take part in it. What the 260E program does is it provides training funds to the companies as they're expanding, and they're able to use those training funds to help address their workforce needs. So they'll be adding new positions, and those new positions will then be eligible to utilize the 260E training funds amount for their company to pay for their very valuable workforce training needs. The 260E funds provide training funds that are reimbursed at 100%. They also cover the cost of the wages while those individuals receive the training, and it can be used, a portion of it can be used for on-the-job training funds. So it makes the program very lucrative for a company to participate in, because it also is not utilizing money that's out of the general fund from the company. It's able to use the withholding tax credit that they would normally be paying the withholding to the Department of Revenue. We're able to take a small diversion of that, a 1.5 or a 3% withholding diversion over 10 years to generate those training funds. Mark, I might pass it over to you to explain a little bit more of how the funding portion of it works. I know you do a really good job of explaining the financial aspect of it.
Well, thank you, Starlyn. Essentially, what we're able to do is capture a small fraction of the new state income tax through the withholding process for the new employees. So it's, if you're familiar with tax increment financing on property, it's a little bit like tax increment financing, but with people. And so we're able to then take that money and put it into a bond issue. And that way, rather than having the stream of income trickle in over a period of 10 years, we can move that up front to where the company and the employees really need that training. So we work with a financial consultant, Piper Jaffray. They put together our financial runs, and that changes quite a bit right down to the time when we are about ready to issue the bonds.
Thank you, Mark. So my previous slide on here, it says, how does a business qualify? That's something that's important for us to keep in mind, is it is not eligible to all businesses across the state of Iowa. There are target markets that we look at. So the primary companies that we look at are manufacturing, processing, and assembling. Companies that are not eligible are retail, health, and professional service businesses. It doesn't mean that we at Iowa Western are not able to help them and work with them. It just means that this particular program, the 260E program, is not eligible to participate with that company. What we're able to do is, or what we do, how a company enters into a 260E is, before the positions are added, we need to be in communication with that company or with those company contacts. They provide information to Iowa Western regarding what is their new job plan. And it can be something just as basic as, we are planning on expanding in the next 6 months or the next year. We can do something very basic off of that. We enter into a preliminary agreement with them. Once that preliminary agreement date is set by us entering into that document, it's a non-binding agreement, but what it does is it sets the date that any hiring that happens that date or after can be considered under the 260E program. So if a company were to add positions today and we talk to them in 3 months from now, unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to capture that new growth from today. That's why it's imperative that we get in front of the company and speak with them about this program before that hiring begins. It's a simple document that we can enter into in a very short time frame as well. So we did have a company during COVID that contacted us and said, hey, we're adding 40 positions this week. Is it too late? Luckily for us, it is not too late. We were able to enter into an agreement. We can capture those for them. Also, so if it doesn't apply directly to you, or you're an economic developer and work with the chamber and you have a company that you think might be eligible, we can also do something that is called an estimate letter. So if they have an idea of how many positions they're planning on adding, approximately how much they're going to pay, we can provide an estimate letter that says, based on these assumptions, you would be eligible for approximately this much amount in training funds. When a company sees that, when they see the black and white, the actual financial benefit that they could reap from this program, it makes them a little bit more interested, kind of sit up and take interest in the program as well. It's a great marketing approach for companies that are looking at locating in the area, and they may have a few different locations they're looking at. It can also be a recruitment tool for us and for our economic developers to utilize. Is there any questions on the 260E program today? Okay, we'll go on to the next one, the 260F program. What the 260F program does is it pairs well with the 260E program, but the way I equate these two, and it seems to resonate for some people, they understand it better this way, is the 260E program is similar to getting a mortgage on a home. It's a long-term investment. It's a lot more expensive. The financial gain is a lot more for a company potentially. And then what we do is we say, you're eligible for X amount in 260E funds. How would you like to utilize those? The 260F program is more of a short-term training program. It is more like buying a car. You know what, you go out there, you pick out what car you want, you know how much it's going to be, and then we decide, yep, 260F funds are a good fit for that. Let's utilize the 260F program for that car. So that's the way I think of it, is the 260E is larger, 260F is smaller. 260F can be up to 2 years. So what the 260F program does is it provides training funds to companies to help with their training cost. Now, the training can be something that we at Iowa Western provide to them or coordinate for them. It can also be something that they go out and they already have a trainer that they're planning on partnering with, and so the company is going to be paying for that training. We can also utilize the 260F funds for that. So they are not required to go through Iowa Western to utilize the funds, though we do encourage them to do that if we're the right fit for them. What we do is we get together with the company, and sometimes they know what training they want, and other times they just know that they have a pain or they have a need and they're not really sure how to address it. So I'm going to give some props to Carol Horner on this one. She does partner with us with the 260E program with our companies, but also with the 260F. So we have a company that says, hey, we're having some leadership challenges or some supervisor challenges, and we don't really know where to start. So what we would do in order to utilize the to pair the 260F program with our training is we would go and meet with the company, and we would bring along someone like Carol Horner, and we'd say, here is the challenge that they're having. What do we need to do to address that? And so our service provider, if it is not Iowa Western, or even if it is Iowa Western, would go in, figure out what their need is, figure out what the best training opportunity would be for them. We would put together a training plan for them that would include the cost of the training. And now the company knows how much the training is going to be. Then we enter into a 260F with them that provides the training funds to offset the cost of their training. And the 260F will cover 60% of the total training cost. So pardon me, I just lost a train of thought there, but our training provider would be making the profit that they would need to be making to keep their business afloat. Iowa Western would be able to partner with that company and utilize the 260F, and the companies would reap the reward of the 260F program by being able to invest in their employees, be it new employees or existing employees, on their workforce and training needs, and be able to make it more affordable, because training is very valuable, but sometimes it's not always the most affordable for some of the companies to utilize. So the next slide on here, oh, excuse me, it is the 260F. I thought I had two. There we go. So the types of businesses, much like the 260E program, are manufacturing, processing, warehousing, wholesaling, conducting research and development. Those are the types of companies that are eligible. And again, retail, health, and professional service businesses are not eligible. In order to utilize the 260F funds, much like the 260E, we need to be in communication with the company prior to when the training begins, or prior to when they've actually conducted the training. We are into an agreement of intent, again, a non-binding document between us and the company, and it just says that we plan on working together and utilizing the 260F funds for an upcoming training. What goes along well with the 260F program is our customized contract training. With that, this is just a short list of different types of training that companies can use 260E funds for, they can utilize 260F funds for, but also this is a really good list of just vague information, because we go much farther deep into the weeds with the companies on this. But this is all contract training that Iowa Western is able to provide, either through on-staff employees that provide the training, or partnering with, like I used, for example, Carol Horner, and we have many other contract trainers that we partner with for language and communications, technical, health and safety, entrepreneurial management. This is a great starting point when we go to a company and we say, you're interested in investing in your employees and utilizing training, where would you like to begin? And it's kind of a nice little brainstorm for them, and they start to go through there and start checking off things and say, oh yes, this is something we hadn't thought of before. We've been talking about utilizing or doing this training, we just didn't know where to start. So with that, we do have a small staff, but we're kind of mighty and powerful with that. We have Mark Stanley at the helm, as our VP of Economic and Workforce Development. I serve in the role of the Director of Economic Development, and I have great people that work with me. Sherry Sleekle, who is on the line with us, is our Economic Development Coordinator, and then we have Dave Salerno, who is our Industrial Training Consultant. So when a company is interested in training or utilizing the 260F or 260E, they can reach out to any of us and we can go out there and we can discuss with them and talk with them and figure out what would be the right direction for them. So if you ever have any questions or anything, even if it's beyond the 260E and 260F programs, feel free to reach out to any of us that are on this list and we'd be happy to get you in communication with them. I'm going to ask Mark and Sherry if you guys have anything to add to all of that information I provided.
Sherry, if you don't have anything, the one thing that I wanted to touch on, Starlyn, is that when Starlyn mentioned customized training, our training is very much customized. We used to go to companies and say, essentially, what do you need us to do, and when, and then we kind of figure out how to get that done. We might develop the curriculum or the program, or we might go to a training provider who would do that. But the list really, as Starlyn said, is very good for piquing the interest of companies and getting the brainstorming process going. So a lot of times our training is just highly customized. We have some products, but for the most part, we develop what the companies need at the time. And most of the training is delivered on site rather than in the classroom. So it is very much customized, and it's not really a classroom type of a setting in most cases.
Well, thank you both, Mark and Starlyn, for sharing that with us. As Starlyn said, you can reach out to them with any questions on this. If you lose their contact information, you can find that on the Chamber's website under Workforce, and it is listed on the Employer Resource page. There's a brief listing, kind of like what Starlyn shared, of the 260E and 260F program there, as well as their contact information. And I encourage you, even if you have questions, if you're not sure if this is something that would fit for you, just start that conversation with them. There's no harm in starting that. And as Starlyn said, it's a great way for you to be able to expand your business, or to try to put some training into place to help any employees that you currently have. Does anybody have any questions for them? Feel free to unmute yourself if you do.
I just wanted to note one of the great things about this program is the flexibility. So say, for example, there's a project that doesn't qualify for state assistance or local assistance from Iowa Economic Development Authority or the city or the county or whatever it may be. There's been instances where if the jobs meet the qualified wage thresholds that was laid out, they still can receive assistance from the 260 E&F program. So that flexibility and the fact that it's revenue net neutral is really big. And I just wanted to highlight that and really thank both of them. And I think Senator Dawson, I think you probably appreciate the revenue net neutral piece as well. So it's a very effective program. I just wanted to note that.
Great, thanks guys. If I don't have here any questions for Dan, Mark, or Starlyn, I will kind of go ahead and move on to some of the programs that are available through the Chamber now, that we wanted to make sure that we share with you and kind of give you some updates on. Again, these are programs that were key programs we wanted to install when the collaborative originated a year and a half ago. And so we wanted to make sure that these programs are being worked and that we are explaining them to you. So we're going to do an update on our Unbelievable Workplaces CD, which is our Best Places to Work program. We have a new professional development available, and that's for new and emerging leaders. And of course, if you are a seasoned leader, but you think you could use a refresher on how to lead a team productively, please feel free to join that. We'll jump into that here a little bit later. And then also there's some new funding available through the state that we want to make sure that we touch base on. Before we move into those, let me see here. Want to kind of give an update on our work ready communities. So this is where we are sitting right now. Again, when I started, this was a big priority of the Workforce Collaborative, was to ensure that Potawatomi County was registered as a work ready community. And what that means is that we have got to have a certain number of residents and workers that are emerging and or in the workforce currently that have their National Career Readiness certification. And that National Career Readiness Certification is really an aptitude test that focuses on 3 areas. And those areas are more of your soft skills, so that when an applicant comes to apply with you, you can look at what the skill set is needed for the position that you're hiring for and ensure that that associate's going to align well with that position right from the start, so that they have those skills ready to start training the actual work skills that you need for that position. And so I just want to share this with you. I know that we have about 60 businesses currently that are registered as a recognized work ready business, but we definitely need to get more. Our goal in order to hit that from ACT is 126 businesses. And so I wanted to share this screen with you, which is a little bit different than what we normally share. And that's because I want to emphasize how many employees that we have or workers that we have currently in Pottawatomie County that do have that NCRC. And so it really is just you learning what the NCRC is, how to read the NCRC, and how to utilize that to hire the best candidates that you can for your positions. And so when you look at this total in Pottawatomie County, we have over 5,000 workers that carry this NCRC and that are ready to be employed today. And so if you want to learn more about the program, please just jump right onto our website under the employee resource page, or you can go right here to workreadycommunities.org/Iowa/I55, which is our county. You can see a more detailed listing of how many businesses are registered, what it means to be registered. And also I will share at the end of this, just a quick Google poll that you guys can enter your information into, and I can register your business if you'd like. Again, that is free to register as a work ready business. And they are going to send you kind of a best practices or a toolkit that you can use when hiring associates. The next program that I wanted to share with you guys to make sure that everybody's aware of, and I will kind of turn some of this over to Drew to speak as well, but we do have our new Best Places to Work program in place, and that is Unbelievable Workplaces CB. And this is a pilot program that is produced by the Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce. And we created this program to track employee satisfaction so that you can gain insight from your associates as to what is going well and maybe some areas that you need to address inside of your organization. It's also created to be used as a resource when recruiting new associates to your team. Of course, if there are 2 companies in the same industry that are hiring, and one of them is an Unbelievable Workplace, as an applicant, you're more likely to go apply for that company that is an Unbelievable Workplace. And so with Unbelievable Workplaces, the survey that we are using is through Mood Tracker, and there are a few surveys available to us through Mood Tracker, and the one that we are using is the Human Centered Workplace Survey. And so if you register for this, it is only $25 if you are a member of the chamber, and it is $50 if you're not a member. The reason that that cost is so low, again, we really wanted to make sure that this was something that was affordable for businesses to participate in as a first-year program, and really get that value of this out there to our associates so that you can see what the culture of your workplace is to help with recruiting and help with your turnover. And so I'll kind of turn that over to Drew if he has anything. Drew, do you have anything you want to add to that program?
Just that we're really excited to get it rolled out. This has received a lot of traction. We've gotten a lot of attention with the media wanting to talk a lot about this because it's just a really good program that we're putting forward, and it also meets a lot of the pieces that we needed to as part of the Iowa West grant when we kind of first talked about what this needed to look like and started rolling this workforce program out 1.5 years ago, and then also what this group has worked towards. So I'm really happy to see what Alicia has really come up with as kind of a, while there is some competition still embedded in it, it's really recognizing those who are doing well and helping lift up those and give them the assistance they need to those who may need a little bit of a nudge to try to get to where they need to be for their culture and their employee satisfaction.
Great, thanks, Drew. And I do just want to add, so the way that you qualify for this is that you just go in to register on our website, and we will ask you how many associates you have on your team. We do require that 60% of your associates complete this survey, and there are categories inside of the survey, and then we just need you to have an overall green in order to be put on the website. Whether you have an overall green or you don't, that is valuable information that you'll want to know about the culture of your workplace. And as Carol and I had a good conversation about this, one thing that she mentioned is that even if you are green overall, it's really important for you to dig into why your associates feel that you're green in that area, so that you don't change a leader or a policy or procedure that you currently have in place that was making your associates happy to come to work, making them proud to be there every day, and accidentally change something that you may feel is very small. that really could change the culture of that workplace. So we just encourage you, whether you are green or red, to dig into that. If you are red, we would love to sit down with you and work on a strategic plan to kind of address those concern areas. And then we will allow you to retest again in 6 months. Our goal is for everybody to have a great culture and to be able to keep their associates right here in Council Bluffs. All right, so the next program that we are really excited about, and it kind of goes hand in hand with our Unbelievable Workplaces, and that is our New and Emerging Leaders Professional Development Workshop. And so I thought it was very interesting that in 2019, Gallup took a poll of over 1 million workers, and out of that poll, 75% of them said that they quit their managers and not their jobs. And so with that being said, it is really important for you to ensure that you are giving your leaders, especially if they're new to leading a team, the training that they need to be the best leader that they can be. And so through this program, we are working with business ethics alliances. Eve is going to be the instructor of this course, and she's going to focus on being an organizational leader, building an exceptional team, setting vision and goals workshops, and managing a team and work execution. Of course, as we mentioned, those are fundamental things that your leaders are going to need to know how to do. And a lot of our leaders get promoted not because they've led an exceptional team before, but because they're great at their job. They really know how to run that line at a manufacturing company, or they know how to do the position that they're in really well. And so next thing you know, they're promoted for the hard work that they put in and their dependability, but then they aren't given that tools that they need to actually lead a team. And so the Chamber actually has received a grant or sponsorship through Black Hills Energy, which is going to help us cover over half of the cost of this program. And so for you to put your leader through this program, it is only $120 per individual, and that does include lunch. We have broken this up into a 4-part workshop so that it is smaller pieces and you get greater takeaways with each one. And so it will be 4 consecutive Wednesdays starting on March 10th from 12 to 4, and it will be at the Holiday Inn. If you guys are interested in this, you can email me to learn more about it, or you can jump right onto the Chamber's website under our events and register there. And then lastly, we just wanted to kind of touch on briefly, hopefully you guys have all signed up to receive emails and communications from Future Ready Iowa. But if you have not, there are 2 grants currently available through Future Ready Iowa, and that's the Employer Innovation Fund, which is designed to expand opportunities in Iowa to earn post-secondary credentials, leading to high-demand jobs and encouraging Iowa employers, community leaders, and others to collaborate to support regional workforce talent development. And the second is the Child Care Challenge Fund, which is designed to encourage regional and community projects that will create increased child care slots to local communities by supporting the development, renovation, or rehabilitation of child care facilities, the ability of qualified, affordable child care for workers in Iowa has been a longstanding workforce challenge I'm sorry, I lost my place there. I apologize, guys. Challenge during the pandemic and just a long-term challenge. This has been an issue for Iowa for a long time now. It actually, they've considered us a desert zone in Iowa. And so I'm happy to see that Dan spoke on this. Now there are some funds available. Drew did reference that last year there were no funds that were granted to Southwest Iowa. And so I'm not sure if that leads to there not being anybody that applied in Southwest Iowa if we were not awarded those grants, but we would like to change that and make sure that we put Southwest Iowa on the map. And so you can register. Oh, I apologize. You can register to learn more or get your application in by February 12th. And I'm going to go ahead and drop this into the chat box for you guys. Other than that, that is all that I have to share. Let me drop that in there for you guys if anybody needs to go there. Does anybody have any questions about anything?
Alicia, did you just want to touch on that we are kind of limiting the number of spaces in that leadership program and talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, I apologize. Let me hit on that real quick. So with that, we are limited to 30 seats because of COVID. We do want to make sure that there is social distancing in place. And so at the Holiday Inn and the Holiday Inn at Ameristar, they do have a meeting room available for us that can hold up to 30 so that we can honor or be socially distanced. And so we currently have 16 seats left for that class. And so if you are interested in that, please make sure that you register as soon, as they will be filling up quickly. I want to say that we received 10 registrants the day that we opened that up. So we want to make sure that we get that word out there to everybody. And if you're interested, please jump in and get registered. Right now, you can register also and have us invoice your business if you need your accounting office to build that for you. Drew, do you have anything else that you wanted to add before we jumped off?
The last thing I just wanted to touch on is Senator Dawson talked about a lot of different things, but there's one tax credit that's particularly of interest to us because it pairs two things that are extremely important. It's workforce and housing, and it's appropriately called the workforce housing tax credit. And the governor proposed increasing that twofold. And that's really important because that's a highly in demand tax credit. There's a backlog of people wanting to use it. It's a refundable tax credit. So that's something we will be working with Senator Dawson and his colleagues on to get that moved forward, as well as some redevelopment tax credits. But I just wanted to make sure I emphasize those because those are some things that are specifically important to the community.
Perfect. Thank you, Drew. I appreciate that. Sorry, I wanted to go back and make sure I wasn't missing any of the websites that I wanted to share with you guys. I think that those are all of them. And yeah, if you guys need help with any of those grants, please let us know. Otherwise, you can visit iowagrants.gov to receive additional information or to go through that application process. And without any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and close this today. Sorry that we kind of sped this up a little bit. I just knew that there were a few people that had to jump off at noon. And so I wanted to make sure that Dan and Starlyn had the opportunity to go through their speeches today and kind of the information that they want to share, and that we had an opportunity just to quickly share with you the unbelievable workplaces, the new and emerging leaders, and of course, those 2 grant opportunities that are available for you now. So if you guys have any questions, or if you ever want to sit down and do a one-on-one with me, some of the workforce programs that we have, please let me know. Again, if you guys have any questions about the 260 ERF, please reach out to Starlyn or Mark. They're great to work with. I know that we have had a couple of conversations with some businesses locally, and they were great. And I think that there are a couple of businesses that are now applying for those due to those conversations. So we really want to encourage you just to reach out and see if that's something that will work for your business. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.